Hello everybody, welcome to episode 12 of the Retro Rumble podcast. I'm your host for this episode, David White, and this episode is another top 5 special. We're going to be looking at our top 5 personal favorite first-person shooters, and you might be thinking this is the Power podcast because I am joined by two of their ranks in Anthony and Taylor. How are you doing, guys?
Awesome, how are you?
Hello and welcome to this very special edition of the Power of Podcast. Oh, wait.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
It's backwards.
So this is Anthony's first time on the show and Taylor's second time, and we have for you our own personal top 5s. So this should be an interesting discussion.
Definitely.
And I get the feeling I'm going to be... Oh, wait, I was going to spoil my number 1 for a second there. Taylor knows what it is already, I think. It's so obvious. Everyone should know what my number 1 is already.
I've been able to deduce through past discussions. Yeah.
Even the listeners who have possibly been on Discord or even read a few articles or even past episodes of the show know probably what my number 1 is. But yeah. So guys, what have you been up to? Been playing much? Been doing much?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I've been recording a bit. I was going to say streaming them for some reason. Been recording a bit of stuff here and there. Been watching some like Jacksepticeye stuff, and he's kind of been convincing me to buy some games which I shouldn't be buying.
Jacksepticeye.
Yeah, he's like an Irish YouTuber.
Cool.
Same as like Markiplier and whatnot. So I've kind of been, what's the term? Guilt buying, I suppose you could say. It's like looking at a game and then being like, oh gee, I really want this. And then buying it and then being like, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have bought that. And yeah, just been kind of uploading some videos here and there. Had one going out basically every day of this week apart from yesterday.
You've been streaming a ton as far as I can tell.
Yeah, well, not so much this week, but yeah, streamed a bit last week and been streaming some Destiny and whatnot as well.
Ocarina a while back, wasn't it?
Yeah, like a month ago I was streaming some Ocarina. It's cool. Kind of like what I stream kind of depends on the Twitch charts as well. So I kind of go for like anything under the top 10. And like Undertale, not Undertale, Destiny was on there because the Destiny expansion just came out and whatnot. Apart from that, I've had a pretty quiet week this week. Just been working and studying and all that kind of stuff, so usual tales of life.
Cool. And what about yourself, Taylor?
This week's been a blur for me. I'm not gonna lie. I thought this was last week, but I guess I had an anime article published earlier in the week, so go check that out. It's it's good anime to watch for the fall season.
Yeah. I saw that. I didn't realize you wrote that.
Yeah, that's not saying that it's fall seasonal anime that's airing, but it's just anime that kind of capture the mood of fall and everything, because where I'm at in the United States, fall comes in and people notice, and there's definitely a different mood in the air and everything because it's one of the other seasons that we have in the States. So yeah, there's that. And then I really haven't been gaming that much. The only game that I would really be playing would be RDR2 because my PC is still broke. Yeah, awaiting on stuff from Corsair.
Yeah.
And I just haven't been able to
still going.
Yeah,
that is still going. Yeah.
I thought that was resolved. I thought it was a long time, but like 6 or 7 weeks or whatever. But I thought that was resolved. It's still going.
Yep, still going.
What's the problem? I'm curious. I actually don't know what the issue is. Don't they make peripherals, Corsair, and stuff?
Yeah, but they also make a little bit more in-depth PC parts as well. So they made power supplies, memory. Corsair actually started as a computer memory company, so all they used to make was RAM. This was back in the 90s, by the way. But anyway, yeah, so my build in July had a Corsair power supply among other Corsair components, and the power supply basically failed, took all the other components with the PC with it, and so that happened on September 19th or so. And since then, it's been working with Corsair to get them to evaluate the damage, get compensated for the damage. We are in the final stages of compensation. Everything's either being processed for compensation or is in the mail as we speak. But they had a pretty upper limit as to how long the checks for compensation could take to arrive. So yeah, there's that.
So it shorted, and I'm assuming it sort of shorted and zapped your computer and took everything with it. Is that what you're saying?
Actually, the opposite. It overloaded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's kind of what I meant. It shows what I know, really.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, a short is like a quick secession or recession of power, right?
Yeah.
But then an overload
Right.
is just like a quick discharge. But yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I don't
An
know what I'm talking about,
EMP.
but, yeah.
Either way, things died.
Yeah.
Corsair lied. Things died.
Nice.
I think some American people might get that joke reference. But anyway, yeah, the past 2 days have been dominated by doing the rewrite of the site that went live yesterday afternoon. I spent an ungodly amount of time experimenting with stuff on Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah. And then, and before that, what happened? I can't even remember what's been going on, crikey. When we couldn't that's right, we couldn't access WordPress.
Oh yeah, we had site issues earlier in the week also.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can, it's like a plugin that we got to do like site metrics and everything for some media pass applications. That plugin has a security feature built into it that whitelists or blacklists IPs. And so its default values was just blacklisting everyone. And so in order to get rid of it, we had to basically revert the site to the previous day.
Yeah.
So you lost a bunch of articles then? Well, not lost them, but...
Wow, yeah, so basically we published, I think, like I put out like quite a bit of video content onto the site. All of those articles were no longer there. I think we lost 2 other, like, written pieces, which luckily the writers had backed them up, but even if they wanted to back them up, they couldn't even get into WordPress, which was rather annoying. But luckily they already had copies of them on their computers.
Yeah, cool. Well, as far as I've actually not been doing much gaming, but I have been playing a bunch of the games that I picked up from a week or so ago. Yesterday, I pretty much spent a lot of time, pretty much the entire free time I had, to playing a game called Cyberball. Have you heard of a game called Cyberball?
Can't say that I have, no.
I kind of have, but I'm not too sure what it is.
You know, I'm the most unsportiest of person. I used to be a very sporty person, believe it or not. I used to be a really hardcore sort of football fan or soccer fan for the American listeners, but I didn't stop me playing sports games. So Cyberball, and Cyberball is an example of what I always say: everything is better if you add robots or ninjas. And Cyberball is basically American football with robots.
Oh yeah.
You might be familiar with another
thing.
game called
Okay.
What's it called? Speedball? No, I think that might be a different game. It's similar, I think, but I might be thinking of the Mutant Football League or something like that. But anyway, it's not the best looking game, I'll be honest with you. It's decent looking, but it's really, really cool. It's classic NFL stuff. All the plays and all the leagues are very much based on the American, the NFL standard NFL stuff.
Yeah.
But the gameplay is really interesting because I'm not familiar with the rules of American football, but I know that you have a certain amount of time to have possession of the ball, right? Or something. I don't really know, but this could be something that might be I might be basing this entirely on the game itself. I don't know, but in Cyberball, you have your wide receivers and your linebackers and all that stuff, or whatever they're called, and you have your quarterback, and your quarterback holds a ball that is basically a steel orb, and over time it just gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and it gets to the point where the ball is critical, and if the player is hit when he has the ball, he explodes, and you have to buy another one.
Oh, so it's closer to like a basketball shot clock then.
Maybe, yeah, something like that. But I know that if you, I think it's based on. Actually, I don't think it's time. I think it's based on downs. Actually, now that I think about it, I could be wrong. I think it sounds like time because as the gameplay goes, and the ball gets more and more critical, the rather simplistic music speeds up. It's kind of like a dong 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 dong, and it just keeps going faster and faster and faster. It's quite tense. So, it's one of those games where if you sit down for 5 minutes, you're not going to play for 5 minutes. You're going to play for a good several hours, and it's.
Oh, that's a good game right there, then.
yeah, it's and like I say, coming from someone who's not even remotely sporty,
Hmm.
I can't sing his praises enough. It's so much fun. And when you're like controlling your wide receiver or whoever receives the throw, whatever, I don't know what I'm talking about, but whoever catches and runs for the touchdown, that is such an intense moment because all these robots running behind you and they've got like sort of booster powers, booster abilities.
Yep.
So they go straight for you, so you're literally dodging them by like a pixel most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's super, and the amount of times I've like got like a touchdown in the last few seconds to win a game, it's brilliant. It's so much fun. So yeah, Cyberball. I could be wrong, but I think
They should
it
make
might
like
be
a
a Mega Drive or Genesis exclusive.
Yeah. They should make like a NFL game for Australia. Then everybody gets killed. Because our NFL is absolutely insane. Like, there's no padding, nothing. And basically,
No,
there's
it's
like,
Australian rules football, right? Is that what that was?
well, there's AFL and there's NFL, which is National Football League. And NFL is like no padding. People are just... It's basically American football, but with no padding, and you can basically get into punch-ups and stuff.
I've seen it. It's brutal. I've seen it reminds me of what's it called? Gaelic football. Have you seen that? Is it called Gaelic football? It's played in I believe, I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure it's played mostly in Ireland and Scotland. And that is kind of a combination of football and American football, I think, or soccer and American football. And but it is no padding whatsoever. I mean, there's a lot of like talk about like concussions and stuff like that, but these guys just there are no F's given with these guys because they're just like
let's go at it.
It's just literally they might be. It looks like they were in a basketball uniform, really, doesn't it? If I recall, it's just a gum shield. That's all they have, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
But yeah, brutal stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cyberball, awesome. Oh, I've also been reading a game called Masters of Doom, which is coincidental considering our topic. And it's the story of John Carmack and John Romero and how they met and how they fell apart and how they created Doom and Wolfenstein and id Software and stuff like that. And it's id Software, by the way, and I hate it when people say ID Software.
Yeah.
But there we are. So yeah, that's where I've been, and it's a really good book. I've only just got a couple of chapters into it, but it sets up it's a really interesting book. It begins by going back to their childhood and then leads up to how they met and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So it's a really interesting looking book, and I'm looking forward to diving back into it.
Awesome.
Does it detail how John Carmack got his Ferrari? Is that in there?
Oh, if I recall, there was like there is a bit in the beginning. They don't really recall how he got it, but there is a bit in the beginning where he pulled up to a convention, and this was after they kind of fell out, and he pulls up in his Ferrari because I think John Romero was a bit more of a rock star kind of developer, isn't he? Whereas so you had like the car and the women and stuff like that, a bit more of a playboy, I understand. Yeah. At least that's how the book made it seem so far. And then John Carmack is a bit more of a traditional developer, classic nerd type, I guess. But no, they haven't detailed how he got his car. So I'm looking forward to that then. So that's an interesting story, I assume. Mm-hmm. How he managed to get that.
Yeah. I wonder if like the details about it will be in the book or not, but just like anything about John Carmack and his Ferrari is awesome. So.
All right, I'll look forward to that because there was like kind of like emphasis on the car. Like he pulls up in his, I think they referred to as his famous red Ferrari or something like that. Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. So I'll be looking forward to continuing that then. Right, guys. So shall we dive into our top fives?
Sure. Sounds good.
Alrighty. Yeah, cool. So I'll kick us off then. So I was speaking with the guys before, and listeners, and I was really pondering my number 5 for some time. My top 4 was decided almost straight away. I've always felt my top 4 has been my top 4 since I've played them. And my number 5, I'm going to go with... I'm still kind of deciding right now. Because I've got 3 options, to be honest. And I thought I decided, and it's so close. if I could make them a John top 5, I really would. But I don't feel that's kind of like the purpose of the top 5. Anyway, so my number 5 is a bit of a hidden gem, and it's Tron 2.0, also known as Tron 2.0 killer app when it was ported to Xbox. And for me, the Xbox has a lot. The OG Xbox has a lot of games that look way beyond their time, in my opinion. Another example is Chaos Theory, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory.
Oh,
completely unlimited. Gorgeous looking game and looks next gen. Absolutely stunning. Just the lighting and textures and that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Tron is another one, but Tron doesn't really do much when it comes to lighting because it's basically a giant neon world. If anyone's seen the movie, of course,
Yes,
everything is
love
illuminated, so they don't have to do much. Have you seen the Pac-Man Easter egg in that, by the way?
Yes.
No. What is that?
There's a scene when what's that actor's name? He turns bad, I think.
Oh yeah, I know the dude.
He turns bad and grows giant, if I recall. There's a scene when he's looking at a terminal, and on the screen there's a map, if I recall.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And on the right hand side, it's basically Pac-Man wandering around the map. Well, I don't think he's moving. I think he's just there.
Yeah.
And there's like a couple of dots and possibly a ghost or two, or monster. Actually, they're not ghosts. That's one of my actually things that I always say when people say like, "Oh, yeah, Pac-Man ghosts." Actually, they're not ghosts. They're monsters. If you look at the original Pac-Man arcade cabinets, they are monsters. Some of them have feet. They just look like ghosts because they flickered on the Atari version, so they created that ghost effect, like they were transparent. But anyway, back to Tron. So Tron is a fairly simple game, but they did such a good job of taking that Tron world. It's very much a video game in a movie, isn't it, Tron? So it makes sense that it would port really well into video games to become a video game. The arcade game is not so good. The arcade cabinet itself is beautiful, but the actual actually I posted a picture of that on the Retro Rumble on my own personal Instagram, which I'll give you guys the name of later. I posted a picture of it because I saw it at Play Expo a month or so ago. Anyway, so when they ported that the Tron world into a video game, and it's just one of the best looking games on the original Xbox. It's so it wasn't underrated. It was just it's just immensely overlooked, and the story is pretty straightforward.
Yep.
But what I also like about it is not only is it visually stunning, you get to have like the disc as well, and this weapons, which kind of surprised me a little bit because I figured there wouldn't be weapons.
But there's cannon things on your arms. The shard-looking thing. I'm just looking at some images of it as well. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I think that's called I think they just simply call that a blaster. By the way, it's available on Steam for like $7.
Heck. Okay. There's another game that I can irresponsibly buy.
It seriously, if you can really get the most out of your computer and really up those visuals, it is a marvelous world. Because there's one moment where, do you know when they say people seldom look up, and there's that famous story of the guys who stole the Eye of India during the day in some museum, but they did it by hiding along the ceiling in the middle of the day when security was down, because people seldom look up. So they were just sneaking along the ceiling while people were just going about their day, which is amazing. Anyway, that is very true, because I was wandering through the world, and that's what I did. I looked up, and you get this sense of expanse, this stunning world. You see these towers of data flowing down, and all these strange shapes and stuff like that, and you're fighting things like viruses as well. And it's the way that it takes like elements of computer technology and a software and put it into the game. Like, you don't gain health, you download health. You don't.
Okay.
Even when you're like opening a power up, they load, and you get that little satisfying load bar fill up as well. It's quite a satisfying game to play. And the viruses are like these bright green little goblin-esque things. They kind of sound a bit like Gollum in a way. Not Gollum. yeah, a bit like Gollum, kind of nattering to themselves and stuff like that, and they literally infect the environment with this neon green goop stuff, and it really contrasts with the pale blue of the Tron world, and really cool. And also power-ups are called subroutines and stuff like that, and I just love how they implemented all that computer stuff into a game. So yeah, Tron 2.0 is my number 5, just because it's a visual and it's just an experience of a game.
Yeah, it's like, the Tron movies I always thought did really, really well at translating, electronics into a sort of livable medium, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird like puns and things like that about like this you have this sort of assistant called what's it called? It's basically, it kind of reminds me of 343 Guilty Spark from Halo.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds very similar as well. And it kind of follows you around. Basically, it's your tutorial guide, but does follow you through the game. And so in one cutscene, the character turns to the I think he's called something Byte. I can't remember. But he turns to let's just call him his assistant, and goes, "What are you, some sort of bit?" And he gets insulted.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm not a bit. I am a byte."
Thank you very
Let
much.
me tell you,
Awesome.
Mister. He gets absolutely, he gets quite like offended by the fact he was just called a bit when actually he's a byte.
Yeah.
So it's loads of little things like that. They're just great. Even when the series, even in scenes when it's not meant to be like humor, it's actually meant to be like a serious moment. It's like the way they talk and stuff. It's a little bit forced, I think, but it's so good. So yeah, Tron 2. Before I go off on one any further, Tron 2.0 is my number 5.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of Perfect Dark a bit, just of the images that I've seen. Perfect Dark on that was like the first one was on 64, but was that also on original Xbox?
I think there was some sort of sequel, but I think that was later on, wasn't it?
Yeah, because there was Perfect Dark 2.
No, it was a remake, Perfect Dark 0, I believe.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I think that was on
360.
360 and PS3.
Yep. Yeah, like the art style and whatnot kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Because
I'm looking at some screens of this also, and it's like I am kind of getting Republic Commando-esque
yeah, definitely.
mentalities here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just like the vibrant neon that's scattered about, but obviously it's more substantial here. But maybe that's it, because oh wait, I'm thinking. Did you say Republic Commando?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I think you said something else.
No, I'm thinking it's like a lot of the first-person views and like the HUD and everything of this game reminds me of Republic Commando.
Yeah, it's a joy to play, and it's just one of those sort of games where you have like I actually found it quite breathtaking in certain areas. Like I was just sort of looking up and just looking around, and when I play first-person shooters, I go for that sort of immersive experience. So that's. You are a human inside a computer.
Yep.
And that's literally your character, and you're perceived as an unauthorized user. Is what they call you. So yeah, it's great, and I didn't play it that long ago either. It shot right up into my top 5 very, very, very quickly, because it's quite an experience.
All right. Well, that's a good thing then, right? It's like,
yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Blew me away.
All right. So is
Go on,
there
Sarah,
any...
what's your 5?
So my number 5 that I chose to bring to the table is Halo Reach.
Oh, darn it.
I'm sorry, Anthony.
You can still use it, and
Yeah, it's a good...
it's inevitable that we're going to have some clashing choices,
Yeah.
but you know, you can still you don't have to change yours if that's what you're thinking.
Nah,
Unless you come up
good.
with something.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, sorry, Taylor, go on.
Halo Reach to me is kind of the pinnacle Halo experience that Bungie ever produced and everything. I think it's a lot better than 3.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just like, there's not an aspect of this game that I don't like. That's the thing. It's like the campaign I thought was brilliantly written and told all the way through, both visually and through, like normal exposition. I mean, the gameplay, as I said earlier, it's a typical Halo game. Halo has fantastic gameplay. It's had great gameplay since the first game, and it's like on Reach, this is being fully realized. In multiplayer, I loved the little armor power-ups or abilities you're able to take on and use.
Yeah.
So I had a ton of fun of those with friends. I love the rolling that you can do from time to time. It's like, because they kind of realize that, oh, there are so many different options we can have if we just expand what's possible. And all we have to do is just go back to just a little bit before the first game. And it's like, oh, what? And, Forge mode was awesome. The amount of freedom they gave you with the Forge mode, which was partially helped by the engine's, memory allocation. They actually redid that for Reach, which was pretty nice. But,
and they
that's a
had,
little bit of a technical nuance.
They had some Halo 2 multiplayer maps, didn't they? I believe.
Yeah, they brought back a couple maps. It was just...
Yeah, that's right.
Everything about Halo Reach is obviously,
Yeah, it's like the perfect Halo game. Like, they had, you played as, it was like their last Halo game kind of thing that Bungie made, and it was done after 3. And, you got to see the original Spartans and where they kind of came from and what they were doing and before everybody got killed.
Oh, so it's an origin story, is it?
Yeah.
Kind of.
And it follows the book quite closely as well.
Yeah, so it's like when Halo Combat Evolved, which is the first Halo game, starts off, it's like the UNSC ship, the Pillar of Autumn, that you start off on, has just escaped Reach, which was the second to last human planet that was colonized that had just fallen to the... So, with the Trevenant being the evil people, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
Like the evil. And so, yeah, it's like Halo Combat Evolved takes place literally just after Reach had officially fallen. And then Halo Reach is this entire, the fall of the entire planet only happened over the course of a few days.
Yeah, I think it was 7 days or something.
Yeah, I remember the time scale being really, really short.
Yeah, when you mentioned the Covenant there, for some reason I suddenly just thought of the whole lore of Halo, and I was just going to dive in and say, I assume you guys probably have, but if anyone hasn't, and I've not read the books either, but just look into the lore of Halo.
It's deep.
It is brilliant. How it is so deep, and how it hasn't been made into something more. It's been like a web series.
I think the closest thing we had was Forward Unto Dawn, which is that little short series.
Yep.
That happened.
Oh, was that a series originally? Was it? 'Cause I thought that was a film.
It was 4 short internet series that were released, and then they combined it into a movie.
Which
Halo
is really
Legends
good.
was also interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, it was not bad. It was basically the animatrix of Halo, wasn't it? It was pretty much the same concept.
Yeah.
Different artists making it and stuff like that. Going a bit deeper into the Well, did it go into the lore? I think it did go a bit more into the lore, didn't it? I can't remember much about it.
It more depicted events that were always mentioned in the lore. Type of thing.
That was the Netflix one, wasn't it?
I don't know what original platform it was on.
Yeah, it was the Japanese kind of inspired.
I feel like it was before. I was going to say I felt it predated Netflix, but I don't think it does. I think it's early Netflix at the very least. But I think when I first saw it, actually I can't recall when I first saw it. It wasn't on Netflix anyway. I know that much.
But yeah, I can't even recall if I've actually seen it, because I've seen one that was, I believe it was on Netflix. I may be incorrect, but it was all animated, and I think it was taking place during Reach, during the whole event of Reach.
Well, Legends is it's a bunch of animated short stories from the Halo universe.
Okay.
It's there are these stories that are animated and they're shown in I think each episode was 20 to 30 minutes or maybe
not
less,
Red versus Blue.
I was thinking. I was just thinking that. I think on Red versus Blue was on Netflix.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Which is isn't it is it really long episodes, or is it loads of episodes? I can't recall, but I just remember thinking, wow, that's a lot of stuff.
They're at
Red versus Blue
episodes.
is a lot of short episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it I think I only watched one episode, which I really liked, and it looked a bit slightly amateurish.
So it's basically.
It surprised me.
So Halo as an entire franchise gave birth to, or as I would describe it as giving birth to the whole machinima thing on YouTube and whatnot, which is videos that kind of take place
Oh.
out of the game, but are made inside the game. So
mean
it's like another good example is like Arby and the Chief is another.
Warthog Jump was one of that I recall, if I remember correctly. It was just a guy basically throwing a bunch of grenades under a Warthog and jumping them over things.
Kind
if I
of, that was
remember.
more of like a montage-ish type thing. But like a perfect example of machinima is actually Red versus Blue. And I mean, it's like the reason why it looks so amateurish is because you're not using any sort of external tools to record the gameplay. It's all that what you can do inside the game.
Yeah. And like all of their movements and everything are in game. Like it's all none of it's animated. It's all running off the in-game engine and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's so much. Like I've read probably 8 of the books now. Like both of the, or I think
Wow.
3 of the, what they call the Forerunner series. 3 of them and like 6 or so of the other Halo books. And I kind of got a bit overwhelmed because they don't really. Once they get into it, into the whole lore a bit more with the whole book side of things, they don't really kind of... The whole timeline is a bit twisted. You kind of need to do research outside of the books to find out where they're
Wow.
based, kind of thing.
That's good though, because you don't want it to hold your hand too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if I had to explain, we'll go back every single time just for the new readers.
Yeah.
Kind of neglects the long-term readers, which are the ones who are really, really getting the most out of it, I think. So if you had to go back into the history of the Forerunners, or every book because someone made a reference to them, and then there's this whole sort of ham-fisted sort of dialogue where someone just briefly explains the Forerunners for some reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like exposition in a way. If they had to do that in every book, that's good. But I see what you mean, because I mean, I've not read any of the books. I've always wanted to, but I know enough to know that the lore is.
Yeah, the
wonderful.
lore's massive.
And I want it to be a Netflix series so bad. Of all, we're kind of drowning in Netflix adaptations in a way, especially with comic book stuff. Not so much drowning, but it's getting there, I think.
Yeah.
Movie adaptations and adaptations of all sorts of things. And Halo, with all this backstory, how that hasn't been made into something that I just feel like we're not getting it, you know, because it's like they had Forward into Dawn, but that seems like more of a fan project. Wasn't, I mean, it might have been, I don't know, but that's right, isn't it? It was more of a fan project, if anything. And am I right in saying that?
It looked like a fan project, but it was professionally produced.
Okay, so there was something a while ago about Steven Spielberg getting involved.
There was
something. I don't know what came of that.
Yeah. Like there was a massive trailer released here. I'm not too sure if this happened like in England or America or anything like that. But like there was a trailer circulating, like a full cinematic trailer of like a Halo movie that they were going to be
was
working
this like 10 some odd years ago?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Oh, yeah,
I
'cause
know
Steven
exactly
used it
what you're
himself,
talking
didn't
about.
And I was so excited for it. Like I saw it, I saw this trailer like probably 4 years after it had been released, and I didn't realize at the time. And I was in the middle of like playing through all the Halo games. I'm like, oh yes, and then oh no, dream shattered.
No. Yeah, I think
Someone needs to get on it.
I think the problem is it's just like no one will really be able to capture the Halo universe into another format that's not a video game. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Give Ridley Scott a shot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's such a horror director, isn't he? Like, I don't know what.
No, it's sci-fi primarily, really. Well, no, he's a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, his first film was a book about a film called The Duelist, or The Duelist, I think, which was Victorian era, I think. But very much wasn't sci-fi, and it wasn't long after that he went to like Alien and things like that, and Blade Runner. But you think of Blade Runner, think of visually. And again, any excuse to talk about Blade Runner. Think of Blade Runner visually, and how that could be adapted, if you like, into Halo could be adapted to look like that. Because Halo, obviously, it's a gorgeous world, really nicely represented, but it's obviously not going to be a pretty world because we're talking 500 years in the future, at least for the first game, 25, 52, I think, and the world is going to be overpopulated and stuff like that. So something like Blade Runner would be a good reference. This is what it could look like. Make it a bit more Halo. Obviously. and that visual style, that epic. Completely rip it off. I don't care. Go for this the synthwave music. I don't mind.
Just do like Blade Runner Halo edition. Let's go for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Halo Runner. Blade. Energy Sword Runner. I don't know. Yeah. Ridley Scott, I think it could do it justice. Or Steven Spielberg, you could do well as well.
And I think if they kind of, not that 343 will allow this,
big, you know.
But
I just want something big. I want like a Netflix series. I want like a triple series of movies. Triple trilogy of movies rather.
The issue is though they've got to.
But no one's doing it.
They've got to go. They've got to team up with 343 then, and 343 is no. I don't like them. If they had have done it when Bungie was in control, they could have done something good. But I worry that if they do it now, it's kind of going to get way overboard and then like Halo 5 again, but in movie format.
Yeah, so to kind of bring it back to like the game itself, Halo Reach.
Yeah.
It's like outside of the ending mission, spoiler alert for what is now a 10-year-old game.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's probably worth saying that generally we're going to be talking about fairly old games here, so we're going to be talking about moments and scenes and stuff from the game. So it's always going to be spoiler alert for this show, I think, for the most part.
All right, but yeah. Anyway, so spoiler alert. It's like outside of the very last mission in the campaign, where your one objective is to survive.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that's like kind of interesting to me looking back on it is how the events kind of fold out and everything. So the first couple opening, I think I remember the opening mission is like you're investigating Covenant presence on the planet.
But
and then
at that time you didn't know what the Covenant was.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, you did.
Yeah.
It wasn't. This wasn't first contact with the Covenant.
I thought it was like more of a. Maybe I'm confusing something else.
But so anyway, past it. But then it's like you return to base, and then you do a couple other missions. But in between, you're always given that break. The one mission where you go up into the Covenant ship and like bomb the ship. Only for it to be ultimately futile, which is also a really powerful scene there.
Oh, yeah.
But past that, you don't get a break. That, like, you and your squad, you're just constantly going for the next few days.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was really interesting. It was just like non-stop, you guys are fighting off the hellific invasion,
And you were like the only Spartan team on the planet as well, so...
Yeah.
And I think that is like one of the only games that actually made me cry at the end of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I'm a massive Halo fan, so apart from the new games, mind you.
I can totally get that. Like I was trying to think of an example. I can think of a very good example actually. Suddenly, characters that mean a lot to me, or generally stories that mean a lot to me, with characters dying. Although I was a kid at the time, I still find it hard to watch now. Optimus Prime's death. Spoiler alert for a 30-year-old movie. Yeah. 33-year-old movie. Optimus Prime gives up his heart essentially, and then he falls. He's lying there. He's stricken. And not only that, Megatron did it as well. Of all the people, you think like, no, Megatron's a bad guy, because when you're a kid, you're like, Megatron's a bad guy. He's meant to lose every single time. Optimus Prime is meant to be the hero and say like, end, like, roll credits or, Autobots roll out and then the credits come and stuff like that. It's meant to be all happy ending, but no, he bloody dies. and not only that, he turns black. He basically rots before your eyes.
Fourth wall breaking right there.
And he turns black and grey, and he like literally immediately. It's like rigor mortis. He just turns black, and I remember when I was a kid, just thinking like, oh my god, like so I can totally
Brutal.
get that. When and I was sitting in the living room at my auntie's. I remember very well, very vividly, and I was on my own as well. And I was just staring at the screen, going, "Wait, what? No, what? No, this is a dream."
Excuse me, what? Excuse me, what?
He's gonna wake up. Right? This is gonna be some sort of thing. They're gonna put that heart thing back in, whatever that glowy thing is, and put it back in. I didn't know the law back then. Yeah, I didn't know the law. I didn't. Just give him his heart. What's going on?
Yeah.
So I totally get that when a series ends or someone a very important character dies, or a story comes to a conclusion that's been long running, and it's epic and emotional and stuff like that. I can totally get that.
Yeah.
I cried at the end of Digimon.
Oh, oh dear.
All right, Anthony, what's your?
Well, okay. Well, before someone rudely stole my choice, no, that's all good.
Is that your number 5?
Well, it was going to be, but that's all good. I mean, I can talk about Halo 2. I may as well.
Okay.
I was going to go Halo 1 because it's kind of the first introduction to the Halo series. But Halo 2 I found to be like a lot like Reach. Yeah, a lot like Reach. It kind of did everything right in a sense. Like, don't get me wrong. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's like a lot of stuff that isn't good about the game, particularly nowadays.
Story's better too, I think.
Yeah, the story's a bit confusing, to be honest. But like it introduces you properly to the Covenant, and it introduces you to the Arbiter, and like all of the kind of the lore, deep lore before all of the books came out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like
people hated the Arbiter as well.
Lies.
People were so annoyed by the Arbiter.
Lies.
Well, I thought he was great. I loved it. I thought it
Yeah,
was
so
great.
did I. I absolutely loved him. He's awesome.
I had no problems with it.
And it kind of introduced, like, sure, in Halo 1, it introduces you to the Flood as well, but more so in Halo 2. Like, it's the story's progressing. It's not, what's going to happen next kind of thing. I mean, Reach would have been my ideal pick, just because I've got a lot more to say about Reach. But 2 is, for me, 2 is, like, where it all comes together, particularly, I think I'm thinking of, 3. 2, like some of the missions in 2, like the rooftop one where you got to go down into the building and stop the bombs and all that, kind of reminds me a lot of some of the missions in ODST as well.
Yeah.
But at the
Probably
time, I think it got like a 9 out of 10. So that is like a decent game for me, definitely.
9 out of 10 is decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we want to go back to Reach, we can. I was just trying to moving on from it in the interest of time, because I don't know how much we want to spend on any topics. But if it was like a double pick for both Anthony and I, then by all means, we can spend more time on Reach.
Well, I'm not really too sure if there's anything else to say on it, that's all.
I would like to say, though, one of my favourite moments of Halo 2 is when you fight the Scarab. Well, you don't fight the Scarab,
yes.
you hijack the Scarab.
Yes.
That's kind of what I want in my first-person shooters, that kind of epic battle where you literally, like, the enemy is so big you actually climb on it. And then later on you pilot one as well, or you...
yes,
correct. Not pilot, that's the word. Well, yeah, it's called a pilot.
Yeah.
You pilot one later on just to shoot the door down, but Halo... I've not played a lot of Halo. I've only played Halo 1 and 2 right the way through. But Halo 2, like I mentioned earlier, Halo 2 is a refinement of Halo 1, although it's a completely different game, obviously. But I think they learned a lot from Halo 1, and then they thought, okay, guys, we know what people like. Let's put it into Halo 2. And that's what I look at as when I see Halo 2.
Yeah.
Is
I was going
probably
to bring up
what Halo 1 was meant to be. In the same way that... well, a bit of a random reference. In the same way that Mad Max 2 was basically what Mad Max 1 was meant to be. But, Halo 2, I enjoy that game a lot. And it was one of my considerations. It probably would make my top 10, but not quite my top 5.
Yeah. And I mean...
I was going to bring up that it's like, the noticeable confidence boost that Bungie displayed between Halo 1 and 2 is absolutely off the walls. And I mean, Halo 2 has so much more character of just not only the characters themselves, but, the world and everything.
Yeah, and they introduce you to, like, Johnson and all that kind of a lot more as well. And it's kind of got, like, to me, it's kind of got, like, a family feel to it. Like, this is your team, you've got to kind of save the world with this team, and if any of them die or whatever, it's super sad. And when I first played Halo 2, I played it back on the 360, I believe it was. Was it 360 or original Xbox? Can't remember.
It was original Xbox.
It was on the original Xbox, yeah.
Original Xbox, there you go. And then, like, I am kind of drawing more on this from the Master Chief Collection, just because they redid, like, upgraded all the graphics and everything, and it looks so good. Like, I would say Halo 2 nowadays is one of the best looking Halo games out there. Just from...
you had a really diverse set of environments, especially in the Arbiter mission. Man. Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier about the good-looking games on the original Xbox. Halo 2 is one of them as well.
Yes, definitely. definitely.
Like really like maybe not as beautiful as Chaos Theory. The Chaos Theory genuinely is amazing. I can talk about it all the time. If we ever do a stealth game list, that'll be on there for sure. Anyway, but that is right up there when it comes to best looking games on the original Xbox. Kind of one generation ahead visuals, I think. I may think differently now because it's been a while since I've played it, but I remember thinking that this game has so much more variety compared to the first one, because I found the first one a little bit repetitive.
Yeah, particularly
I found
the
myself
first hour of it.
Well, I seem to recall somewhere in the last third of the game where you're running around identical areas, more or less, these triangular corridors, and I think you're running by the flood, if I recall.
Yes, the library
around in
mission.
circles, and it could be that. That sounds very familiar. It might be that, but you're probably right. I just remember thinking. I remember towards the end of the first Halo, I found myself realizing, oh wait, I can actually run through this. So I realized I was like fighting, and I thought, I can actually run through this to get to my goal. I can just plow through, and in some areas of Halo 2 is the same as well. I will say, get to what's that area called? What's it called? High Charity. When you get to High Charity, there's parts of that as well where there are these like curved corridors, and you're going along these kind of like. I gave them a name when I first saw them. I called them hyper bridges because you just sort of fly across. That sequence I felt was a little bit repetitive, and I ran through that as well.
And I kind of found
sorry,
in one, I kind of found the outdoor areas as well were rather repetitive, like the ice area where you got to go up and then in and then out and then back to disable the bombs or whatever it was.
Yeah,
that might be what I'm thinking of.
I will say that Halo 2 is my favorite rendition of Cortana, because they didn't quite ditch her purple hue all the way. Like she's a lot bluer than she was, but she was still a little bit purple. Also, and I think that's my favorite rendition of Cortana. And then also the lines between characters is awesome. Like as cheesy as it is, I absolutely love in the beginning of Halo 2. It's like, Master Chief, what do you? It's like he's like permission to open like the bay door or whatever, right? It's like, for what purpose? To give the Covenant back their bomb.
And then it's like, don't die.
Like, OMG, so cool.
Yeah. Although I must say, Halo 1 has the best ending, I would say, because it's like you're running away. And like Halo 1 and 3 were kind of similar as far as the endings were concerned. Like you're driving.
Yeah.
Like you're driving flat out trying to escape.
A lot of people dislike Halo 2's ending.
Yeah.
I can't really blame them.
I kind of can't blame them either. But at the same time, it wasn't that much of a big deal. It was more of a surprise. I was expecting. I think it's because from a story point of view, it kind of made it set it up like there was going to be another mission. And then it was like I can't remember who was talking to him. Someone's talking to Master Chief. I think it might be Cortana. And he says, she says like, where are you going or what are you doing? And he's like, finishing this fight or something like that, if I recall. And you think, oh yeah, let's finish this fight.
And then that's it.
And then, Arbiter shows up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, is the final mission? No, wait, that is the final. That is the final part of the game.
No, I think the very final part of the game is, and I mean, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but the very final part of the game is you fight the brute boss as Arbiter, and that's the very last part.
To Tartarus?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I
thought that was before the sequence with the when he says they're finishing this fight. I'm positive that happens just before the credits.
Okay, they might have played. So it's like, I remember that the mission leading up to that point was the second to last. So they might have played that scene after Arbiter.
You may be right. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think you do fight. I think I'm sure it's Tartarus, or Tartarsaurus, as I call them. And then it goes to the Master Chief cutscene, and I think because obviously let's face it, a lot of Halo fans are total Master Chief fanboys.
Mm-hmm.
So when they go from
Yeah.
Arbiter to Master Chief after fighting Tartarus, you're thinking, all right, here we go, last mission with Master Chief, and then credits roll. So I kind of get the disappointment, but I don't think it was that much of a big deal, really. It kind of made me excited for 3, but I haven't actually played 3.
Yeah.
But still,
I really love like the direct tie-in they do between 2 and 3. You know, it's like 3 picks up literally right after,
Yep.
and it's awesome.
Yep. And like
All right.
I don't know. The more I think about the old Halo games, the more I dislike 343. So enough of Halo. It's just,
Well, one
yeah.
last thing, one little critique I just have to bring up, and I think this is like throughout the series. I think Gravemind was pretty wasted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
I
what
tried
was he?
understanding him in the beginning. I remember. It's funny. I slightly off topic here, but I remember it's funny how the brain works. And I remember watching Gravemind speak, and I'm like, "What is he saying?" I have no idea what he's saying. And then, like the second time I played through, I could totally understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
It's so strange. But yeah, Gravemind is a super character, and you're right. He is, as far as what I've seen, underutilized.
Yeah, you have like this one interesting scene on the planet where all I really remember, Master Chief does the cool ODST drop.
Mm.
And then the next time I remember him really showing was in Halo 3 when he's talking to you as you're going through High Charity.
And I mean, what happened to the Flood? Like, they didn't really. It was just kind of there, and then it was gone, kind of thing. They could have done a lot more.
I think the implication was always that like you exterminated them at the end of 3.
Yeah, yeah. They could have done a lot more with it, though, I reckon.
Yeah.
They have to. I mean, isn't that a bit of a misstep? Because the whole purpose of the Halo's existence is because of the Flood. So to get rid of
correct.
them, kind of gets rid of that. Is the phrase raison d'etre? Where they, I just remember that phrase. Like a reason for existing or something.
Yeah, kind of. But like Halo Reigns are kind of nuke type thing as opposed to precision strike. So it's like they don't just take out the Flood, they destroy all life in this portion of the galaxy.
Kind of a last ditch. You know,
Yeah,
all
exactly.
Either you die or we all die, kind of last ditch kind of thing.
And it goes into all that with the Forerunner books as well, like why they were made and what they do and all that.
I've been wanting to read more video game books. I read the Resident Evil first book recently, which was a bit pointless because I kind of knew the story.
Yeah.
But I'm the kind of person who has to start things at the beginning. I always have to. Not a bad book, but Halo is right up there as far as books I want to read based on video games. All right, so let's plow on. So my number 4, and I imagine I'm probably not. I don't know. I may be the only one here. I don't know. For me, it's the original Doom. The original Doom is my
That
number
was
4.
a solid contender for my number 4.
Really?
Yeah.
And I gotta say, specifically, because this was actually my first Doom, specifically the PS1 version. Maybe it's nostalgia talking, I don't know. But I played the original, the PS1 version of Doom so much. It's such a pick-up and playable first-person shooter. And I feel like you can't really say that about many first-person shooters. At least ones that we talked about already. I feel like you have to put time in. You don't just have a dabble with Halo. You dive in. You don't have a dabble with Tron either. It's actually a lot to get to grips with initially in Tron. In fact, it's actually quite confusing at the beginning. But with Doom, you kind of just dive in and start shooting things, which is fine. I would critique that with I would look at that as a bad thing. But Doom did it so well, and it's one of those games where you don't need to learn anything. You don't really need the backstory. It's there, sort of, but you don't really need to know what happened. It's an experiment gone wrong, as a sort of, well, not experiment wrong in this case. It's sort of like just technology doing something weird, and something unexpected. And the reason why I like the original Doom for the PS1 version is simply because it's the one I played the most. It's probably not that much different than the PC version. I'm probably wrong in that. There may be some criticisms of the PS1 version, but it's right up there as far as the games that I've played the most. I can almost chart the entire game. It's a long game too, as well. It's like 60 stages. Brilliant little hidden missions. I love Club Doom. Club Doom is so stupid. If you ever found Club Doom, I remember it was I was such nostalgia for this particular hidden level, because I remember discovering it. And then sort of like looking it up. We're talking early internet days here, and getting a code to a password for the level that didn't work. I was so annoyed. But I remember when I actually found it, and it's utterly bonkers. And what first stirred my kind of like, what is this? Kind of like, where is this from? Stirred my interest was the great thing about PS1 games is that you can put the disc in a CD player. Most of the time. Sometimes you get some horrible feedback noise, you get some horrible data noises and whatnot. But most of the time you can pick up the soundtrack of a game, and Doom is no exception. So you get like the standard, that wonderful orchestral, epic, hellish even music. It's perfect, the menu music of Doom. And then all of a sudden I was skipping the tracks, and I was like, what is this hardcore rave stuff? It was just this really hardcore, kind of almost unbearable in a way, almost unlistenable rave music. This really harsh drum beat, and it's this horrible electronic sound comes in, and it's not too pleasant. Some hardcore ravers out there might totally disagree, but I can't gel with that stuff. But I remember thinking, what is this from? This must be something hidden. And that's what stirred my interest. So Club Doom is basically like this black room. There's not much detail going on. There's platforms that are flashing green and red, if I recall, and there are things like revenants and the zombie soldiers and zombie sergeants and all that, basically doing what can only be described as an approximation of a dance. Because obviously they got limited animation to work with, so they basically they're kind of stuck on the spot. So naturally they couldn't sort of move around on the spot, so it looks like they're dancing. It's something that was thrown together really, really suddenly, I reckon. But so anyway, Doom is a great game because it appeals to that one area of first-person shooters. It appeals to people who love that one thing about certain first-person shooters, and that is that you can just wreck the place. And you can just shoot things in the face, and Doom really does that well. The double. I think it introduced actually the double shotgun. I could be wrong. This particular version, I could be wrong. But when you're loading like plasma balls into enemies and stuff like that, it's such a fun. It's a little repetitive, sure, but it's such a fun first-person shooter, and I don't think I really need to go into it too much because everyone knows Doom, and I think it's just absolutely legendary, and just particularly the PS1 version for the hidden areas, hidden levels rather, and just because it's just such a pick-up and playable first-person shooter. That's my number 4.
Well, did you know that with the new Doom, they've got in every single level, they've got an old Doom 1 level as well? It's like an Easter egg.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you literally open a door and it's suddenly heavily pixelated and...
Yep,
oh,
straight
I
up.
love that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Aren't modern games fun, David?
They look pretty good from what I've heard.
Oh, no.
From what I've heard... I've heard good things about modern games. I should really get on the bandwagon, Although, just out of curiosity, I want to hear your guys' opinion. What do you think of Doom 3? I know slightly off topic, but I thought it was good. I thought visually, it was again another really good looking game on the OG Xbox.
Yeah.
I thought the lighting was perfect. I thought the story was okay. I didn't particularly care about reading emails and stuff like that, but I knew where they were going with it. They were trying to flesh out the world.
Wait, so hold on. Is there like a vein of people out there that vehemently hate Doom 3? This is the first I've heard of that.
It's probably the most divisive Doom game of them all, by far.
I think most people don't like it as far as it's their least favorite Doom.
I think I'd see. I think it's a completely different thing. I feel like I can't compare it to the original iterations of Doom. I really can't, because for me they just seem like different games of different eras.
Yeah.
I can't compare them because, like I say, they just feel so different to me. Story wise and enemy wise, I love what they did. I love the enemies. I love even the imps. Some people complain about the imps. They think the imps look stupid and more like xenomorphs and stuff like that or something. And they're kind of right, but I love what they did. I love I love how there's some brilliant scripted moments. Some of the way certain enemies are positioned to surprise you. There's one brilliant one where when an imp comes running out of some pipes that are lit up red, just sort of like you don't really expect it. There's lots of jump scares. I think it's a genuinely good game, and it doesn't waste time either. There is a little bit of exposition in the beginning, but it dives straight into it. It goes into that old Doom stuff pretty quickly, shooting things in the face, but it was just a lot more story and a lot more detail.
Cool.
And I don't understand why people hate it so much.
Fair enough.
Okay, actually, to be fair, I do understand why people would hate it, type thing, because, and you did partially allude to this when you were first talking about Doom and how it's, just perfect game to kind of sit and, just go, play, type thing, no past experience. And I mean, you can kind of, as games progress, you can kind of see that evolution. It's like there's very few games you can just plop down and play for 5 minutes nowadays. It's like most of the times when you come down to game, it's maybe an hour or so, maybe 2 hours, maybe 8 if you're crazy. But
well, yeah, that happens a lot.
Experience there. Yeah, that happens a lot too. Don't worry about it. But yeah, it's just so Doom came out originally in '91, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, games of that era are still very reminiscent of, oh yeah, you just sit down and go play them type thing. There's not a whole lot to them. There's just a little bit of lore type thing. But then, by the time you hit Doom 3, games have pretty much become fleshed out, and I think they really tried it. But the Doom formula, which seems to work and is evident in both the 2016 Doom version and back to the original Doom, is that people like Doom when all it is pretty much just killing demons.
It is, and I totally get why people would dislike it. I just think a majority of them are contrarian and purists. I just think they don't like it because it's new, or at least at the time it was new. And they were kind of doing the whole Lords of Shadow thing, where they were just this isn't Castlevania, or rather in this case, this isn't Doom. This is something completely unnecessarily fleshed out. This Doom is just a fairly bare bones shoot 'em up, kill 'em all thing. But where else would they go? With the technology, how could they not exploit that? I think it was the OG Xbox over the PS2, when it comes to lighting ability, or the ability to have that kind of real-time lighting. I think it took a while before. I think it was the second Splinter Cell game where they cracked it or something. Yeah. I think it was trickier with the PS2 or something. But how can they not, with that sort of technology in a game that is essentially attempting to be scary? The first games were trying to be scary, and in some ways they were, but most of the time it was because you couldn't really detect an enemy when they approached, so they were just suddenly there. So there's a lot of sort of jump scares like that, and it was quite a creepy world as well, I guess. But how can they not take all of that? All of that original intention. We want to make it kind of scary. We want to have jump scares. We want to have freakish monsters. We want to have darkness. We want to have blood and gore and explosions. And they got this new technology, this at the time amazing Xbox, and was it on PS2? No, it wasn't. They got this new technology. So how can they not exploit that and go, well, let's just expand upon it now? I get the kind of jarring effect of going from fairly simplistic, relatively low detailed gameplay to straight up to something much bigger. But how can people be upset for them to,
it makes perfect sense to go in the direction they did and everything, because that was the trend of games at the time and everything. If anything, they were just keeping trend to the market. But it does kind of make sense why people would dislike it, because it's a departure from the other games.
I think the formula is slightly broken when it's expanded too much. I do get that. But I appreciated it for what they were trying to do, and I think they nailed it. I'm not going to say trying. I'm going to say I appreciate it for what they did. I think it's a game that you can't really pick up and play, like I mentioned earlier. And the reason why I like the original Doom, and probably the reason why a lot of people hate, probably just like me, you probably love the original Doom because it was pick up and play. Because I think a lot of it is nostalgia as well. But I think Doom 3 is a good first-person shooter. And I think people give it a little too much hate. But anyway, that's my number 4, the original, the PS1 version, even though it's not much different than the PC version, really. Doom is my number 4.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, my number 4, which I think this is on Taylor's list as well, Republic Commando. So
Yeah, that was a consideration for me, that one.
okay, so this is my first experience with this was back 10 years ago or so, probably more than that. Probably my most rememberable moment was sitting in my brother's room because he was the one who was always he was the gamer in the family. I was always too young. And because of the situation that we grew up in, he was the one who was allowed to have the consoles and whatnot. So I just remember sitting in his room, just watching him play the whole thing and play it through. And I think I watched him play the whole game. And then, the whole world and everything kind of captured my imagination. And at the same time, I was watching him playing, what's it called? KOTOR, and that's the Old Republic. So
I'm just curious. Did you know much about Star Wars, or was this your intro to Star Wars?
It was kind of my intro to Star Wars a bit. When I was watching him playing Republic Commando, I had no idea what Star Wars was or what it was about or anything like that. And it was all after the fact that I watched all the movies and whatnot. So as far as Republic Commando is concerned, I found it a perfect kind of blend of tactics and first-person shooter, because you got to command your squad and whatnot. And if you don't,
I love their characters too.
Yes, each
one
one
of them's kind of slightly gruff and kind of abrupt and kind of dislikable, really.
Yeah.
And one of them's they reminded me in their colors as well. They kind of reminded me of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because they all had that kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
And it's if you can't do tactics correctly, then you're dead straight away. And it's the last time I played Republic Commando, the last mission I could not get through it because I wasn't blending tactics properly. I just kept on dying and dying and dying, and I was like, blow this game, I'm not playing it anymore for a while, and then I'll jump back into it. But it's, as you said, it's also a blend of their own personalities, and I love how when Order 66 come through, they don't follow it and they veer away from it and are doing what they believe to be right. Cool. And just the whole environment, Star Wars world and all that, I just find it to be captivating, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, that was the word I was going to use, because I'm a Star Wars fan, but I really wanted to dive into the world a little bit more when I played that game.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, as far as Star Wars games go,
this was one of the only good ones at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I would even argue that it's right up there behind KOTOR.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, if I think about it more, I kind of wonder if it's better than KOTOR. So many people just threw virtual dags at me just then, because KOTOR gets so much love, and I found KOTOR.
Well, honestly, if you're not a fan of RPGs, Republic Commando is the perfect Star Wars game to play.
That is the perfect FPS for the time.
Yeah.
And I found I remember thinking the tactics were pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, initially, obviously, it gets more in depth later on because you have to really give it some thought. But I found being able to command my squad quite straightforward. Just basically going get over there, get on that command point or whatever. What was the word they use? I can't remember. But in the beginning, that's what it kind of does, doesn't it? It kind of you play with it a little bit, even though you're not really. You can kind of run through it on your own.
Yeah.
They ease you into it, and obviously it becomes much more challenging later on, of course. That's
a good mix. It's
lots of opportunities to try out the tactics. You're going to send a person here, you're going to send a person there, you're going to tell them to do this, or they're going to hack that, they're going to do this, or they're going to guard this area, or they're going to stay by this door, or stuff like that. It gives you loads of opportunities in the beginning to get to grips with it, is what I'm trying to say.
And it's kind of also what I love about it as well, is when you think about Star Wars and the can't even remember what they're called now. The blinking soldiers, what are they called? Dear me.
The clones?
Yes, that's the one. Stormtroopers and clones. Oh. Dear me, I'm having a useless forgetting stuff. So when you kind of when you kind of think about the Clone War and all that, you kind of think about like a clean, because of their armor and whatnot, all like you kind of think about it as like a clean kind of environment, I suppose. And when you watch like the animated Clone Wars and all that, it's kind of a clean thing. What I love about Republic Commando is it kind of gives you that dirty element to war.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the game carried its M rating very well.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Was it M-rated?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Which is
It was mostly for its gore.
MA over here.
Oh wait, because I just realized I'm in the UK, so we don't really have M rating. We have I have the game here, and it's probably something like 16 plus or something like that.
It's around 16 or 17 plus.
Not Peggy, yeah, ESRB rating of something like that.
Okay.
Wait, is it Peggy? It doesn't matter. Was it both?
We have ESRB over here.
I think I'm fairly certain it's Peggy. Yeah, because
Peggy I think
Peggy 16
was more
Peggy
symbols,
5,
wasn't it? Was a bit more specific. It would say things like violence, sexual stuff, and drug usage and things like that. Yeah. Anyway,
Peggy used
but I had no idea.
age, whereas ESRB uses MA or M.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it gory. I mean, am I missing something here? I mean, it's been a long time since I played it, but it wasn't all I can think of is when they would in the beginning when you're fighting those flying things, and they basically fall to goop when you hit them. Not in a gory way; they just kind of splatter because they're insects. Effectively.
I think the problem was more of how in your face it was type thing, as opposed to because it's like the game has the wiper effect on your visor, to wipe off the blood of the people.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah,
the blood of your
it's a nice
foes.
touch. Yeah,
that's. I mean, we're talking about first-person shooters. I mean, if I was to design a game myself, I would consider what's the word? Is it something? What do they call it when blood sprays? There's a word for it.
Blood splatter.
Yeah, let's go with that. I was thinking more of one of the technical terms, but it doesn't matter. But that would be a consideration for me.
That's how it's defined in most graphics engines. It's splatter.
Yeah. So like if you shot something in point blank, like say an enemy jumped out in front of you and you just hit say in Doom you had a double shotgun, a double barrel shotgun. If something jumped out in front of you and you hit them point blank, and the screen suddenly goes red because their blood hit you in the face and then it sort of trickles down.
Yeah.
I love that AR kind of sensibility where you are after all this character, so it would make sense that if you're shooting something in the face from 5 yards, it's gonna come back at you a little bit.
Yeah. Taylor, have you played Republic Commando?
Yes, I have.
What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Cool.
I wanted it to be on the top FPS list, but
wait, it's not there?
I don't think so.
Okay, this means war.
Oh, is it not? I think I suggested it as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I suggested it as well. But that kind of disappoints me. I kind of figured that would be in there, at least in the top, at least in the 20 to 25 area.
It might be. I'm not sure.
I mean,
as you can imagine,
I don't think so. Though.
If it was, I would have put them down.
Contentious topics. They is that the right word? Contentious. When we come up with these lists, this always happens. It's always. I mean, I say it like it's just our sort of thing. But if you ask 11 people or 30 people in our case, or the 33, it doesn't matter, their opinion on something, it's gonna get someone going like,
"What?"
Ugly. It's if we're all in a room together, if we're all sat around the table, I guarantee someone will get in someone's face at some point. Because let's face it,
I wouldn't be that aggressive about it, but maybe be a little more vehement about it,
Yeah. A bit more raising their voice. I don't mean like literally getting in people's faces, nose to nose. I keep going to reference my number one, but I'm not going to. I am very defensive of my number one.
I'm very provocative to your number one, so it's okay.
You know where my number one is. But if we were all in a room together, guarantee at least someone would be like, what are you talking about? You get that sort of argumentative voice.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, these lists are always fun.
Particularly when there's like 12 people involved.
And particularly a genre that's that applies to almost everyone. Everyone has first-person shooters. I mean, RPGs are a little bit more No, I was going to say niche. That's not strictly the right word. A little bit more. Not everyone loves RPGs because they're a bit more. They're a bit. Some folks don't like games that are too deep.
They're quite.
It has a narrower audience.
Narrower. First-person shooters, however, referencing Doom again. First-person shooters. Some people love their pick-up and playability, even if they are actually in-depth games. You can pick up a game like Halo 2. Or my number one, and you can sort of just play it for a bit.
I mean, like when you get home from work and kind of jump on a shooter and kill some people, whereas an RPG, there's a massive learning element if you haven't played it for like a week, and it's like, oh, what the heck is this?
Yeah, I've heard that issue before, where it's like, I'll take like a few days off playing an RPG or something, and just like, what are all these things?
Yeah. Just like Fable or Ocarina, you turn away from it for like a couple of days, and you're like, wait, what was I doing? It gets to the point that the amount of times I've said to myself, make notes. Seriously, I keep telling myself that's kind of silly. It's kind of silly, but why not? Just have a little notebook or a little bit of paper inside the sleeve of the game, saying like, by the way, hey Dave, how's it going? Welcome back to Fable. You were doing this earlier, and this is where you need to be now. Okay. Cheers. Much love.
Is that why most like older game manuals had the notes section in the background?
Oh, undoubtedly. For passwords and literal notes. Yeah, definitely.
Huh.
Funny enough, it's slightly random. Cyberball actually has like a score-keeping record book, which is a bit strange.
That's awesome. Okay.
I don't know why you'd want to do that, but he has like I remember correctly, he has a league. I can't remember if it's leagues or fixture results. I can't remember. Bit strange. I don't know why would anyone do it. But some people are really hardcore into NFL, so of course they're going to get stat heavy, I guess. But
true.
But there's only so much space in there, so you got to fill it out in no time. But there we are.
So, number 3. What do you got, David?
Wait, hold on. You skipped my number 4.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I thought we skipped Taylor for a moment there.
No, you said, because you went before me.
No.
You did.
No, you didn't.
No. I never said my number 4.
What's your number 4 then, Joe?
It's I'm kind of cheating here, but it's Metroid Prime 2.
Ah, weird. Okay.
That's not cheating. Why is that cheating?
Because they're 2 separate games. Yeah.
Okay.
There was one game that I was going to put in, possibly considering my top 5, which was The Suffering, because it switches. You can switch from third person to first person. For that reason, I didn't include it. But if yours is 2 different games, I don't know.
Okay. I trying to time. It's like they're kind of tied really close to each other, right? So it's like Metroid has always kind of, whether it's in the 2D or 3D, has always kind of excelled when it's blended elements of horror into. And Metroid does that the best, as well as just, overall Metroid Prime 2 feels immensely alien going between the light world and everything. So you really get the sense of you're in this hostile environment, literally in the dark world of Metroid Prime 2, the outside is hostile, you take damage unless you're in this protective barrier until you get the dark. And yeah, so it's like, it really nails its atmosphere perfectly well. And so that's one of the reasons why I really like it. And plus, all the mechanics were really cool. You had the beam switching and whatnot. You had some ammo for the alternate beams that you could use. And it was just really fun. I enjoyed all the things they set up leading into Metroid Prime 3, which is, interestingly enough, most people's least favorite of the bunch, just in general, just because of the linearity of it.
Or was that something else? Is that Other M, or was that something else?
No, it's Metroid Prime 3 Corruption.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a separate game from Other M. We don't talk about Other M. But
I was going to say, because Other M is so maligned. I know that people really hate Other M.
Yeah. Oh, Other M is shocking.
I just hate the title. I think it sounds so lazy. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's more deep than I think it is. But when I hear Other M, it just sounds like Metroid Prime, that other guy. It just seems so. That seems so lazy to me. Sorry,
right, exactly. But anyway, so it's like with Metroid Prime 3, a lot of people disliked it because it was a little bit more linear than comparatively 2 or 1 before it was. But I mean, honestly, that was fun. I really liked 3 also because I think it does a really good job of making you feel powerful, and it does a really great job of subtle storytelling and everything. Samus doesn't speak a word throughout any of these games, but yet they're able to tell a very good visual story and like how she's feeling and everything with the cutscenes in Metroid Prime 3. So I think that's really good. And then of course, Metroid Prime 3 really expands the universe open quite a bit, because it's one of the few Metroid games that references not only other bounty hunters, but the greater Galactic Federation as a whole, as well as the greater Space Pirate area as a whole, as opposed to other games where, it was very narrow and everything. You compare it to Metroid Fusion, which was the latest 2D Metroid at the time of these games coming out, and it's like there were some references to the Galactic Federation, but you never saw scope of their power. And there were of course space pirates in the game also, but you never saw the scope of their power like you would in Metroid Prime 3.
Yeah.
See, I'm surprised a game like Metroid Prime didn't suffer the same thing that Doom 3 did, in that it expanded too much and broke the formula and stuff like that. But then again, it went from being a platformer to a first-person shooter out of the blue. And so I guess that comparison doesn't really quite make sense, because it's trying a different genre. So, but still, I'm surprised that because of the technology, they're able to expand on so much. I'm surprised that Metroid Prime didn't get bombed in a way. It didn't bomb.
Well, okay, don't get me wrong. So when Metroid Prime came out, Metroid Fusion came out very close to it. For those of you who don't know, Metroid Fusion is also Oh yeah, it's great. It's probably my favorite 2D Metroid, to be honest. But anyway,
it's one of my favorite GBA games. I know that much.
All right, but Metroid Fusion and Metroid Prime were very divisive in the community. It's like each with their respective and everything, and even it's like in the Metroid community this day, it's a little bit of a strange topic to delve into, to be quite honest, just because you get these sets of people that I really don't like the 2D Metroid or the 3D Metroids, but I like the opposite one. And then there are other people that are just like super purists in each of those respective factions, where it's just like in the 2D camp there's just like, oh, Metroid Fusion is garbage, the only decent one is Super Metroid.
Yeah.
You did these
I would expect that.
Yeah, you did these very what's the term? I'm blanking on the term to describe it. You did these very zealous people that defend Super Metroid. Yeah. And then in the 3D area, it's basically a battle of grievances between each other, because people that prefer the 3D Metroid platform to the 2D one kind of think, oh yeah, well all these games are good except for Other M. Everyone kind of collectively hates Other M, but that's besides the point. People are like, oh well, Prime was good, so was 2, so was 3. They're all good games, but I'm annoyed more by 2 than I am in 1. So 1 is probably my favorite, and then just like it's very subtle annoyances like that.
And I understand that number 1 or Metroid Prime is one of the things I hear about Metroid Prime a lot. Is that it does first-person platforming really well. Now, I've not actually played the first one, believe it or not. I've not played any Metroid Prime, and I know I'm missing out. And I know it, and it's way up there on my wish list. But I'm curious about that. Why does Metroid Prime do first-person platforming so well? Is it like some sort of mechanic I'm not aware of?
So they keep the big thing why like Metroid Prime succeeded, I think, is because they translated all, if not most, of the power-ups from the 2D Metroids into Prime 1. Or into the Prime series, right? So it's like you could get power-ups in the 2D Metroids where you could jump higher and further and everything. Well, they implemented that really well into Prime 1, so you can noticeably see like how much further you could jump, and once you get the double jump and everything, all that sort of jazz. And eventually when you get the screw attack, it actually goes into a third person, so you're given a lot better control of that. Cool. And then also all the morph ball like puzzle solving sequences in Prime 1 are in a third person perspective as well. Okay. But aside from that, when you're just like jumping, but aside from that, when you're just kind of jumping around in first person mode, one thing that it does is sets you up visually very well. So there's a clear point to jump to, and there's a good chance you've probably seen it from afar, so you might have already been planning in your head how can I get up there type thing. And it just doesn't play any tricks on you in terms of momentum or jump height or anything. It's very straightforward. And to be fair, also, none of the jumping sequences in Prime are necessarily that difficult, like you might find in a dedicated 3D platformer game.
Right. I was in my head I was thinking sort of trying to guess why it was done so well, and my immediate thought was of going back to the 2D games, and that there's of course, a ledge grab, which Samus will do automatically, and I figured that is implemented so that if Samus falls short of the platform, she grabs it. If Samus hits it at the corner, it's kind of one of those sort of like half fallen, half caught it sort of step up sort of animations.
That's not present in Prime. That's not present in Prime.
That's what I thought. I thought because thinking about that, I thought that's actually not a bad thing to be implemented in first-person shooters. Why don't they do that?
Yeah. It's a little bit
fall short of the platform, and you grab it, then you press a button, and up you go. You know.
I've seen a few tech demos that demonstrate that, and it is a little bit jarring, to be quite honest. Although it's
it's
supremely useful. But the way they did around that in the Prime series is that they always give you a generous leeway to do it. So you don't have to make these like pixel perfect jumps or anything, or make use of the grab mechanic. They always give you a generous amount of freedom in that regard.
I just thought of one game which was an article for my Hidden Gems series. I don't think it's on the site anymore because it was so long ago. And it was a game called Breakdown, and it was made by Namco, I think. And that took the first-person perspective and ran with it, because you interact with everything. You you do fist fighting in first person and stuff like that, and it does it really well. And it's one of the few games which actually does that really well. And there was I can't remember if it was a mechanic or whether it was something automatic. When you jump, you grab onto a ledge and you see the hands. But I see what you mean but the reason why I thought about that is because you mentioned the jarring effect.
Mm-hmm.
And because it does it really well, but it's hard not to ignore the fact that when a character bounces around or hits a wall as they jump and stuff like that, and their vision or their perspective sort of bounces around, looks up, looks down, wobbles back and forth, it is quite jarring. But it's not too harsh. It's a little bit jarring because it would be anyway, because you just literally hit a wall. So It kind of makes sense in a way. But when they climb a ladder as well, there's a lot of like back and forth. So I see what you mean. It would be jarring, but it has been done really well.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that it hadn't been done at all. It hadn't been done at all, rather. But it has been done, and it has been done very well. All right. So shall I jump on my number 3? So sorry, you finished, Taylor? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Sorry. Unless anyone wants to discuss the finer points of Metroid Prime with me, then we're all good.
I haven't played them, so hence why I'm quite quiet.
Do you know what? That is a really good topic for a future episode.
For you? Is the GameCube
too recent
for you?
No,
okay.
In fact, I just want to briefly touch upon what I consider retro then. For me, when I think of the current gen, obviously that's not retro, of course. And when I think of the previous gen before the current gen, I think of just that's related. That is the previous step. So I don't think of that retro. Okay. So it's the step before that I consider retro, because you, in my opinion, you always notice a significant jump in technology every 2 generations.
Yeah.
And like even back in like Atari and early NES days, look at those 2 machines. The capability does jump a fair bit, but not enough. But when you go from like PS1 to PS2, for example, there is a significant jump. And when you go from PS2 to PS4, there's a massive jump. So, but PS2 to PS3, probably not so much. So what I consider retro is basically 2 generations and back, or 2 generations ago and back. So GameCube, I do consider.
So
retro.
The Wii is also a fair game then. So.
Yeah, I would say so. I would definitely say so.
Yeah. Then pit yourself the Prime trilogy up on the 3 and.
I'm going to sound ridiculous. I don't like compilations.
Okay.
Is that weird? I don't know what it is about compilations.
Alright, then pick yourself up Metroid Prime 1 and Prime 2 on GameCube, and then go get Prime 3 on the Wii.
Yeah. I probably will get and also I kind of like buying games for the original platform. So for me, I'd only get Metroid Prime for the GameCube.
Yeah.
I kind of went off topic there, was I? So
you're going to go on to your number 3 if you want.
Oh, no, actually, I was going to say something else. We should definitely talk about Metroid Prime in general for a future episode, because that would be really cool. And you'd be a good person to have on that. So we'll definitely talk about more of the finer points of Metroid Prime in the future, I think, because it'll be a really good show topic. Yeah, so my number three, I've actually forgotten, but I written it down here. There it is. My number three is actually a number three, and that is Time Splitters 3.
Ooh.
Which
All right,
I was
really
pleasant-
quick. Is this series actually good, or is it a meme?
Oh, it's brilliant. It's
Okay.
one of my. It's generally one of my favorite series. Not just my favorite first person or my third favorite first person shooter. It's actually a genuinely great series. The first one, as you can imagine, just like the original Halo, is a little bit. I don't want to say basic. It's compared to the second and third games, it's not as good. That's because I would say they were finding their footing, but then again, it's basically the same. It's the GoldenEye and Perfect Dark guys that made this game. I understand. I think, yeah. Anyway, so it is a very good series, and there's work on Time Splitters 4 apparently underway. Although that was a
Yeah.
while ago that I heard that, so it could be one of those things that's just kind of mentioned to see what hype develops, and then they realize actually nobody cares, so we won't do it. I don't know, but I imagine this Time Splitters has got a huge, I would say, cult following, but it deserves a sequel nowadays. It's been a couple of generations now. I don't think it even got any sort of remake or anything like that for the last gen. Anyway, Time Splitters 3. So what I like about, particularly about Time Splitters 3, is I played Time Splitters 2 constantly for two reasons. It's a great story. I love all the different worlds. Time travel, as the name suggests, is what you do, and you go through all these different worlds from I think 17th century Notre Dame to a robot factory in the year 2600 or something.
Yeah.
It's so great like that, and I love games that do that, where they have lots of different worlds, and that's the reason why I love my number one so much, because there's lots of different areas that are different and exciting and brilliant. And Time Splitters obviously takes that and really runs with it, because obviously it's time travel.
Yeah.
Time Splitters 3, I then got, I think it was last year actually, and I dove into it not thinking very much. I just thought this is just going to be Time Splitters 2. It's from the same gen, so it's not going to be visually all that much more impressive. And the story's going to be pretty much the same thing again. And it does actually wrap up the story. Spoiler alert, I guess. It does actually wrap up the story, because the story is there are these creatures called Time Splitters, and all they want to do is basically... they're basically douchebags. They want to go back. They want to basically ruin it for humans. That's all they want to do. They want to go back in time, and they want to destroy humanity's past, and kind of create that sort of Jenga effect, where they basically go back in time, and they try and undo something, perhaps.
Okay.
They don't. So they don't have powers to like really go toe to toe with humans. So they think, we've got time travel, so we can go back and basically wreck humanity's history. So it's a really cool concept story-wise, and that's one of the reasons why I love it as well. But what Time Splitters 3 did well is that it took everything in Time Splitters 2 that they did well over the first one, and went a bit further again. I think the shooting mechanics is a bit more spot on. If I remember correctly, there is no sort of this. I found the weird wavy gun effect that probably started with GoldenEye. I never really liked that. It could have started with GoldenEye. I don't know, where the gun sort of just moves around on the screen. Yeah, they don't really do that too much in the third one. I thought it was a bit more tighter. Visually, it's excellent, and there's a lot more pieces and stuff like that. It's a brilliant sequence, and again, this is another thing I love about the game. You help yourself throughout the game, which sounds like a really stupid thing to say. What happens is two different timelines happen. You play a character called Cortez, and he kind of looks. And by the way, if they ever make a Time Splitters movie, Vin Diesel has to play Cortez, because he just looks so much like Cortez. It's incredible. In fact, if you see Perfect Dark, in Perfect Dark, Vin Diesel's wearing those goggles. Cortez wears goggles, and he's bald as well. He looks exactly like him.
You mean Chronicles of Riddick, don't you?
Oh, started with Perfect Dark though.
Ah, yeah.
Perfect Dark is in the canon of Riddick.
Yeah.
By the way, the Chronicles of Riddick, The Escape from Butcher Bay, really underrated stealth game, and another contender for one of the best looking games on the original Xbox, by the way. Really, really good, really, really good game. Actually, that's a first person shooter. I just realized. Oh my god. How did I not think of that? No, I'm happy with my list. Yeah. So visually it's spectacular, and what I mentioned about I've gone off my point a little bit here. You help yourself. So there's two timelines that happen. There's a past Cortez and a current Cortez.
Yep.
And the past Cortez, it doesn't quite make sense. It's one of the things that Time Splitters does a lot, and that it does time travel really bizarrely. You help yourself get something. Like, for example, there's one scene in the beginning. You help yourself get a key to open a door.
Yep.
But it was you who got the key to give to yourself.
Oh,
So
okay, that's pretty cool.
It was a constant circle. So you so picture this. Cortez is running toward this door. He realizes it's locked. He hears someone go, "Psst, hey," and he looks up, and it's himself going, "Hey, I got a key." Drops it down. You go through the door, get the key, you go through the door, you go upstairs, and what happens? You are then that Cortez, looking down through the grate, going, "Hey, psst, I got a key for you." So there's this weird sort of paradox, the kind of thing that happens, and it's so bizarre. It does this throughout the game, like so many times where you help yourself.
Yes, so it's like every action has a reaction kind of thing.
But where was the initial action? You know, it's weird, sort of like
true.
How did that? It's so paradoxical. It's mind-boggling. So I remember first encountering that, and I paused the game. And I thought, wait a sec. How does that work? And there's a lot of humor like that, a lot of goofiness.
Yeah.
You know, the whole time to split thing. I'm pretty sure Cortez dabs in that game.
Oh god.
But we're talking pre-dab now. We're talking pre-dab meme and all that nonsense. I'm pretty sure his pose is a kind of dab. I could be wrong. Anyway, but yeah, Time Splitters 3 is the pinnacle of the series. It took everything that 1 and 2 did really well and ran with it. It didn't really succeed all that much. I think it didn't quite do as well as Time Splitters 2, I don't think. Yeah. And I think it's really underappreciated. For it's out of my 5, I would argue that this one probably has the best story. Just because it's so wacky and crazy, and time travel is always fun. Cortez is a brilliant character. It's so entertaining, and it wraps up the whole thing in a nice ball as well. It just ends the story in a really good way. It's not ham-fisted. It's just really good climax to this whole story. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with Time Splitters 4. But then again, we're talking about weird time travel nonsense and kind of crazy stuff. So you know, they could do whatever they want, really. So yeah, Time Splitters 3, Future Perfect, is because it's called that because initially it begins with humanity's destruction, or inevitable or eventual destruction, but the future perfect, obviously, or the perfect future is obviously that humanity survives, and that's basically what happens. Spoiler alert: you basically destroy the Time Splitters for good. In fact, massive. I've spoken enough. I don't want to spoil it too much. But the final level has a very Tron-like appearance. In fact, think Tron, but think Tron in green.
Yep.
And you get basically the final level of Time Splitters 3. So yeah, I just don't want to spoil it. I really don't. So I want people to really enjoy Time Splitters 3 because I don't think it's got enough love. So yeah, that's my number 3, Time Splitters 3. And there we have it. Thus ends the first part of our top 5 FPS game special episode of the Retro Rumble podcast. Thanks once again to Anthony and Taylor for joining me in what was a great discussion. And you, dear listeners, will get part 2 this coming Wednesday, so keep an eye on the Culture of Gaming Discord, the main site too, on our Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and you will be notified of every new episode as it becomes available. Of course, we would love you to tell us what you thought of this episode, your own views on the games we discuss, and perhaps your own top 5 recommendations. If you would like to do so, and it is very likely that your questions or comments will be read out on future shows, you can do so by joining the Culture of Gaming Discord, where you'll find a dedicated Retro Rumble chat. The link to our Discord is sat on the very right side of our website, or you'll find the link to join in these episodes' show notes. If you prefer, you can contact us via our Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, all of which can be found by searching Retro Rumble Pod, or you can try the links in the show notes for those. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you guys in our next episode. Bye bye.